Happy Devil's Thursday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 351, titled, Can the Devils Learn from the Knicks? I'm your host, Sam Wu, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios bunker in North Jersey and down in South Jersey at the South Jersey bunker. It's Nick Villano of pucksandpitchforks.com, talking all things Devils, streaming on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. Lots to talk about because some news coming over in the last hour. Nick, how are you, my friend? What you got?
It's crazy. Yeah, I just when tweeting the podcast, I said the take gods are on our side, Sam, because it's middle of June. Stanley Cup Finals going on. The Knicks won the craziest basketball game you've ever seen in your life. So I of course heard an article about how the Devils need to learn from the Knicks, and we'll get into that in a minute. But we have to get to these two. We have a report, and then a vote that we're going to talk about. Let's talk about the report. So Kevin Weeks of ESPN just came out and said that Nico Hischier's contract negotiations, it's progressing. Looks like it's going towards a quote-unquote medium-term deal worth, are you ready for this, Sam? Because I don't think you've seen this, right?
Hear the
drum roll?
Yeah. Yep.
$11 to $13 million. Couple caveats here. What Kevin Weeks means by medium term, very important here. I'm not paying Nico Hischier either of those numbers on a 3-year deal. You don't get that. You get $9 million on a 3-year deal. If you want to test the waters, you get to play with fire and see if, we're heading towards another flat cap world unexpectedly, or a lockout, or any of these other things. Like, you can play with fire, but you're only getting $9 million. If you want $13 million, 8 years. Only way. The only way. And I still don't want to go that high. I'd rather push to like 12.5. But if you're not signing for 8 years, you're not getting that number. Like, you have to put your foot down and make it a little uncomfy for people. A 4-year deal, there's no number I would sign for that. None in this universe. He could tell me that he's doing, unless you're doing like a 4-year, $2 million deal. I'm not signing a 4-year deal because that would line you up with Jack Hughes, right? If it is a 4-year deal, because Jack Hughes does Jack Hughes have 5 years left?
4.
So he's 4, including next year?
I believe so.
Okay, so then a 3-year deal, I'm never doing that. There's no world where I do a 3-year deal, 3-year extension with Nico Hischier. I am not lining up my major contracts. I'm just not doing it. You didn't, Tom Fitzgerald paid a pretty penny to not do that with Luke Hughes, and the Devils are going to pay the price for that. Unless Luke Hughes develops, then it doesn't matter. Then he's a $9 million defenseman, and life is good. But if he's what he was last year, that's going to hurt. But you did that because you couldn't line his contract up with Jack Hughes. And the reports that came out were that he wanted to line his contract up with Jack Hughes. I'm saying the same thing to Nico Hischier. You want to line your contract up with Jack Hughes and try to bully us into a rebuild if things don't go our way in the next 4 years? Not happening. I am not signing Hischier a 3-year deal. I'm not signing him to a 4-year deal. I'm saying I am either signing him to a 5-year or more deal or 1-year deal, and we'll kick the can down the road. Let me show you what I can do as Sonny Maeda in a year. Let me show you how much better your life is going to be under me in the next year than it's been in the last 5 or 6 under Tom Fitzgerald. Let me have that grace. Sign a 1-year extension so you're not a lame duck. We'll revisit this next year. But if I'm looking at 11 to 13 million, that better be a 6-year deal or more. Even at 11, I want 11 by 66 or, maybe 11 by 72. I'm fine with that. Or 6 by 66 or 6 by 72.
You have me really confused. Very confused.
Okay.
So what is a medium-sized deal?
That's what we don't know. That's what I'm saying. Is a medium-sized deal 3 years? Or is a medium-sized deal 6 years? Right? That changes the conversation. So I think that's the part of the report that's ambiguous. And you got to remember, the Devils can't sign this for another 20 days. In 20 days, it's July 1st, and the Devils can sign Hischier to whatever contract they want. And he wants. So that's where I'm at. No 3-year deal. Throw that on the table. That's just not happening. 4-year deal, avoid at as many costs as you possibly can. Especially at this number. If you're giving out a 4-year deal, again, I want it to be 9. You're taking on all the risk then if you're the Devils. Anything over that, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm fine with 11 to 12. If you go to 8, I'll do 13. That's where I'm at.
It's funny because that's what Sonny was saying last night at the town hall. All I think about is the salary cap. So it's a team-friendly deal, you think?
No. I don't.
Yeah, you still now have me confused.
Do you think that $13 million is a team-friendly deal?
No.
4 players in the entire league make more than that. It's Kirill Kaprizov, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, and Leon Draisaitl. Hischier's not in those conversations. We just have to be realistic. Hischier's not in the conversation with those players. But he is going to be with the contract.
So what's the purpose of going with a higher AAV?
I just think that's where we're going. Alex Tuck is going to be a $10 million a year player. I just think we're in a world where that's what people make now. And people were shocked when the contracts in the NBA went this high, and they've been shocked with the the NFL quarterbacks and the contracts that they're getting. But
to me, a medium-sized deal is obviously it's not a bridge contract, but to me, I think again,
three's probably a bridge, right? They would consider that a bridge, a 3-year deal.
Yeah, if I'm gonna guess what Sonny Mate is trying to do is not put himself in a corner long term with Nico. Mm-hmm. That you kind of have a three let's just say a 3-year out, 4-year out. 8 years is a long time. 8 years is a very long time.
Yeah, but you see what's happened with Dylan Larkin. He's got 5 years left on his contract, and it's kind of coming down to Detroit has no other choice but to trade him.
Yeah.
So 8 years is not as long as it has to be.
Yeah. See, I hate this vague stuff. Give me the specifics, Kevin Weeks.
Yeah, this is Kevin Weeks' specialty. He's Mr. I emoji. He's a report that isn't fully baked. I love Weeksy. Would love him on the podcast, but it's just a little off.
Yeah. But here's the good news. Sonny Mate said he's encouraged, speaking of Gritzik and Nico Hischier, the talks, Obviously, he can't say anything. But we'll find out beginning of July where those talks went. Nico, do you want to give him an 8-year deal?
Yes.
Is this going to be the Sonny Maeda era?
No,
where
Heischer and Hughes is the only reason why there's any hope for this team to be anything in the future. They're the only reasons. Luke Hughes and Simone Nemeth didn't turn into the defensemen you thought they were going to be. They're still not neither of your two best defensemen. Dawson Mercer didn't turn into what he was supposed to. Jesper Bratt did, but Timo Meier hasn't been what he was supposed to be when he got traded for. So Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes are the hope. And you have to lock in the hope for as long as you can so that Maeda could come in and make those moves to enhance, right? Because that's where the mistakes kept happening is Tom Fitzgerald would build rosters for the ideal world. And we've been doing this podcast. Were we doing the podcast when Cheryl got fired?
Yes. Way before that. We are one of the originals.
Okay. So every year we come into the season saying if everything goes right, they'll make the playoffs. And sometimes we'll say if everything goes right, they'll be contenders. I remember that first post-COVID year, hey, Andreas Janssen is good, and with Corey Crawford and I think it was Crawford and Blackwood, with that tandem, the goalies could carry you to the playoffs. Well, Crawford retired. That threw that out the window. Okay, well, next year, we saw a much better version of Jack Hughes in 2021. If he takes another step and becomes a superstar, and Nico Hischier turns into X, Y, and Z, then they can make the playoff. They didn't come close. The next season, they actually did do it. It all came together. They beat the Rangers in the first round, and then the playoffs were unlucky. And then the season after that, you lost all these pieces. But if Luke Hughes is ready for NHL hockey day one, we're in good shape. Well, then you lose Hamilton. And then that kind of threw the season for a whack. And the goalies were terrible. Well, if Vitek Vanacek forgets about how terrible he was in the playoffs and Akira Schmid remembers how good he was against the Rangers, you're all set in that. And I said that. I wrote an article that probably haunts me to this day about how I thought the Devils were good in goal that year. Because you know me, I've always been high in Dawes. So I thought if Schmid couldn't repeat it, you could go to Dawes. But, excuse me. That never happened. I'll tell you what, Sam. I understand why Hischier is hesitant, because this is what it sounds like. It sounds like Hischier's the one who's hesitant. But you got to talk him into the 8-year deal. You got to do everything you can. You can't force somebody to sign a contract. But I would go to. That's why
I actually disagree with you on that.
Do you remember that this is the only year you could sign on that contract?
I understand that, but me personally, if I was the GM of the New Jersey Devils, I think it'd be mutual to sign a medium-term deal. I looked up what a medium-term deal is. AI is telling me usually 4 to 6 years, sometimes 3 to 5. This is a compromise, solid security, and a big raise for the player while giving the team cap flexibility and avoiding over committing long term. I think a medium term deal is actually good for both parties. I think it's great for both parties. The Devils are just not tied in for 8 long years. Say if Nico starts to get injured all the time, or Nico loses a step, all that kind of stuff. It can happen. I'm not saying it will. This is not a reflection of how I feel about Nico Hischier, but let's see what you can do, Sonny, and then the other way around, show me what you got, Nico. 3 to 5 year deal. If it turns out to be rosy, then sign his life away for a lifetime contract with the Devils. If it doesn't turn out to be rosy, you can always trade Nico, or he can go into free agency and find a team where he can win a cup. I think it's mutually beneficial for both sides. A medium-term deal. Not saying, because if you're Sonny Maida and you're an analytics guy, and you're constantly thinking about the salary cap, you're constantly thinking about the numbers. The one great thing about short-term deals is you can wipe it off your books. You got a 2-year out, 3-year out, putting pressure on the player, because long-term contracts can be bad too, because there's no urgency. There's no urgency. There's financial security for the players, but from a hockey operation standpoint, me personally, if I was a GM, I would love to put players on a 1 or 2 year deal. I mean, Tom Fitzgerald used to do that at once upon a time, and Ray Shero. It was always 2-year deals with this.
But who did they actually do that with?
Well, with a lot of scrubs. Show me what you got.
I just think that's part of. That's just part of the day. You know what I mean? That's just part of the. And I would highly disagree with you on Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald gave long-term deals to so many players. Like Jonathan Kovacevic was a clear just give him another year. What do you give him, 5? You know what I mean? Like Connor Brown's another guy. I love Connor Brown.
You misheard what I said. He used to. He used to give all these 2-year deals in the beginning.
Yeah, he did that with Bastian and.
I'm talking about scrub players. I can't even remember their names. I mean, like Andreas Janssen, stuff like that. It was always a 2-year deal with everybody. Remember, it used to be 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. But only the long terms went to, pillar players. Yeah.
Yeah, he just kept making mistakes. You know what I mean? Even when you look at the ones that I like in a vacuum, still don't make sense in the aggregate. Like when he signed Brendan Dillon and Brett Pesce, I like what each of them brings to the team, but now you're stuck. Now you're 7 defensemen. And that doesn't include Seamus Casey or Anton Silyev. You know what I mean? You're drafting all these defensemen, but you're signing them long-term deals. There's so many mistakes of the Tom Fitzgerald regime. The problem was last 2 years, they were just head scratchers. It's okay to trade for Timo Meier and sign him. I don't think that was a mistake. Timo Meier is exactly what you wanted on paper. He doesn't turn out. It's okay. He had a large resume. He was still young. And you signed him for less. People thought he was going to make $10 million a year. You signed him for less than 9. I don't consider that a mistake. Kovacevic is a terrible mistake.
I think extending Markstrom was a terrible mistake.
Well, yeah, I mean, that might have been the dumbest one. And I hate to use that language, but there's no other word for it. It was an unintelligent move.
Because he didn't need to do it.
Who was running after Markstrom? Let me ask you this, Sam. The free agency period is dreadful. Dreadful. I don't think anybody was racing for Markstrom.
Definitely
but apparently, Markstrom wanted a $6 million deal for as long as Jake Allen. So there's just a lack of logic there. But anyway, I kind of want to talk about Jack Hughes just really quick.
Yep.
Jack Hughes got a 5th place Hart Trophy vote.
Very nice.
He has 1 fewer votes than his brother Quinn Hughes, who was apparently the superstar on Minnesota. But Quinn Hughes didn't get the love in the voting. Do you think people are, let me ask you this first. Do you think people are punishing Quinn Hughes for how he conducted himself this year?
How did he conduct himself this year?
I don't think it was that bad, but I don't understand how. I think he was 5th in Norris Trophy voting, and now he only gets 2 5th place votes for the Hart Trophy when he was carrying that Minnesota team for parts of the season.
I would say to you, Nick, that just tells you the deep talent pool in the National Hockey League. I don't think it's any disrespect whatsoever. I mean, do I think that Quinn Hughes is the best defenseman in the world? No. He's top 5. Some would say number 2, but not number 1. That would go to Cal McCarr, obviously.
Yeah. I'm looking at the guys above Quinn. Matthew Schaefer was above Quinn. Lane Hudson was above Quinn. Jason Robertson was above Quinn. Crosby was above Quinn. And the guys above him in the Norris voting, like Dahlin, Mort Seider, Zach Werenski, who I think won the Norris. Pasternak's kind of interesting. Here's the thing: the top 5 is Kucherov, which I don't agree with him winning. I'm fine with him being top 5. It's crazy that he won. McDavid, McKinnon, Celebrini, and Suzuki. I don't know what more McKinnon could have done. His team was like record-setting, and he was the best player on the team. Yeah, and Celebrini is way behind McKinnon, and then Suzuki is way behind Celebrini. So there's a clear top 3. And then there's a very clear number 4, and then everybody else is kind of in there. But, like Jack Hughes is tied with Gabriel Landeskog, Ilya Sorokin, and Logan Thompson for 23rd in Hart Trophy voting. I just thought it was funny that he got a vote.
I wonder who voted for him. Vinny Parisi?
Maybe. I'll tell you this, though, Sam.
We should ask Vinny.
Do you realize just how big of a tear Jack Hughes was on at the end of the season?
Of course I realize it. Who didn't?
Do you remember how many points he scored after the Olympic break?
I don't remember exactly, but he was like 1.5 points a game.
Yeah, he had 10 goals and 14 assists in March. I think there was 13 games in March. And then in 8 games in April, he had 5 goals and 9 assists. So, yeah, almost a point. Wait, he almost had 2 points per game in April. He was scoring basically every other game, if not more. Jack Hughes came out of that Olympic break just on a tear. And it breaks your heart because the Devils make the playoffs if he doesn't break his hand or whatever you want to call it. Slides up his hand. Because he had 2 goals before the Olympic break from December 21st until the beginning of February. And then he immediately came back, took off the cast, and had 10 in a month. So it's unfortunate. Those things happen from season to season. I'm glad. Here's where I'm glad, Sam. I can't remember the last time that Jack Hughes goes into an offseason fully healthy and able to just train. How many times have we said just bulk up, train up, get a little thicker, don't lose any of that speed or agility, but get a little muscle around those things. And I think Jack Hughes is going to be a monster next season. I really do. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the league.
Well, I'm going to answer a question. Jay Snow. Well, it's not a question. He says, the end of the season was meaningless. You can't take that serious. I say no, because the Devils were in a playoff hunt the entire time. They were far behind, but they were going against teams in that playoff hunt.
And do you think the other team wasn't trying?
Yeah. I mean, they were
Like
taking
they're playing playoff teams every night.
They were taking the Devils very seriously. You know, we witnessed a lot of these games. It wasn't like these were like throwaway games. I mean, the Devils were a better team, and you know, after the Olympic break, I mean, they were you know, they were pushing hard. I mean, heck, remember, I had charts that they're mathematically still alive and ways in the last week how they could try to get, you know, even though the 0.03% chance, how they could get.
It sounded realistic when you laid it out like that, but
yeah, it was a long piece of paper. It was on 11 by 14 piece of paper in the scenarios. You know, I mean, you know, and
but he was carrying the team at the time.
Yeah, and just a reminder. Loser points actually mean something in the NHL, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I hate it, but you know what? The Devils didn't have enough loser points. They lost a lot of games in regulation.
Yeah, even so, though, they just, that stretch in January, they just let themselves, they lost too many games. Like, overtime or not, they just lost too many games.
Yeah, they let themselves go, you know?
And not for nothing, like they were in the wrong conference, right? Like the East was much better than the West this year.
Yeah,
like there's good teams at the top of the West in Vegas, but Vegas had fewer wins than the Devils, right?
Technically, yes. They had a lot of loser points, and plus they were in the weaker Western Conference in terms of the standings. I'm not saying the team there are still great teams in the Western Conference, but overall, I think what went on with the Eastern Conference was they were all evenly matched every night. It was weird. It was really weird. I mean, Ottawa snuck in to the playoffs pretty much in the last couple days of the season. The Washington Capitals.
Like I think Detroit would have easily waltzed into the playoffs in the West.
I think so too.
A team like Detroit, a team like I think a team like Florida would have stayed in the whole year.
Yeah,
a team like but
But the Devils did well against Western Conference teams. They just couldn't beat anybody in the Metropolitan Division, which was a little disheartening. You know,
it didn't make sense much, but again, it is what it is. It is what it is. You gotta do better next year.
Yeah. So,
but I do.
Go ahead.
That goes back to the title of us.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at.
So last night, the New York Knicks were down 29 points. Crowd was still trying to get back into it, but it was hard. They just played terribly. The refs weren't good, but it was more than that. The Spurs hit, I think, 14 three-pointers in the first half. The Devils faced a lot of similar type adversity. Calls didn't go their way. Jacob Markstrom let in a couple of bad goals in the first half of the game. That would always knock the Devils off their game. There was just a mental issue with this Devils team, especially before the Olympic break. I'm talking about before the Olympic break here. And that's what we talked about on this podcast. I thought Keefe lost the team. He couldn't get them motivated. Couldn't get them to bounce back after something went wrong.
It was very hard for him to do that, considering the circumstances, what Tom Fitzgerald was doing behind the scenes.
But that was, but that's like his number one job. You have to block out all the noise.
Easier said than done, Nick.
I understand that, but he's making $7 or $8 million a year. You got to do things that are easier said than done. You got to do it.
Yeah, but honestly, I think you're leaving out a lot of. I mean, the way Tom Fitzgerald handled Dougie Hamilton was just.
It was terrible.
It was terrible.
It was awful.
I mean, you there's only so much you can as a coach. As a coach, there's only so much you can do with that locker room. I mean, that has an effect on players. I mean,
yeah. I think
even Scotty Bowman and all these other coaches. I don't know how they would have handled it when the GM just. Was just screwing up left and right the entire time.
I agree. And I think I said on this podcast, I was fine with Keefe coming back. I'm fine with it. Is it the right decision, the wrong decision? I don't have an opinion like that. What I think is... I'm curious of how this is going to go. Because we've already seen his message not work on these same players. And the Devils can't really do much to this roster. We had Brendan Dillon talk about how the locker room was a mess. And Sheldon Keefe himself says he doesn't go in the locker room. Your locker room's a mess and you're not even showing up. I need a coach who centers this team. And you're not going to have these distractions, these Dougie Hamilton distractions, these Simone Nemitz distractions, these Quinn Hughes distractions. Those aren't going to exist anymore. I'm hoping. I don't want to, whatever. Sonny Maeda hasn't done this yet, but the expectation is that the distractions will be some business as usual, right? The Nico Hischier stuff's a distraction right now, but there's no games going on. I just don't think you're going to get Sonny Maeda coming out and saying, well, you got benched because you're a bad defenseman, and Simone Nemitz is our best defenseman. So you've insulted the entire unit, and then you had to bench Nemitz like a couple days later. We don't even talk about that part of it. So I need mental fortitude from this team. They showed it in 2023. You went down 0-2 to your biggest rival on your home ice, and you went and punched them in the face in Madison Square Garden, where the Spurs almost did it. The Spurs almost did the same exact thing that the Devils did in 2023. And you picked up your britches. You scored 4 goals in Game 7 on Igor Shesterkin. You bounced back. Even in that Carolina series, I think Lindy Ruff got outcoached. I've told you that. We agree, we can disagree, whatever. I think Lindy Ruff he just got outcoached. But because that's where, what I don't understand is, you had the blueprint that you just did in the Rangers series, and you were at a disadvantage because of the rest disparity. The Devils finally what did they score? They scored 6 or 8 in that Game 3. It was 8.
I don't remember, Nick.
It was
I don't remember
crazy
scores.
Number.
Yeah.
That team had mental fortitude. And the guys you lost from that team I don't think Damon Severson, Ryan Graves, and Tomas Tatar were the reason that team had mental fortitude. I thought you brought in a high character guy in Tyler Toffoli. You just had a lot of injuries and a lot of bad things. A lot of things didn't go your way. Excuse me.
So what are you saying about? Can the Devils learn from the Knicks? I have other ideas. So where
they need to Oh, sorry. The point is that the game is never over. Ever.
Gotcha.
Until the buzzer sounds, the game is not over. we've seen Carolina score, 3 in 23 seconds? We've seen this Devils team score a bunch in a small amount of time. We've seen teams score against the Devils. I think the Flyers did, 3 in less than 2 minutes last year?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this team has the talent to do shocking things. You just have to be opportunistic. You have to be patient. And you have to be urgent. Urgent and patient seem like they work against each other, but you can do them both at the same time. You have to be opportunistic, urgent, and patient. That's what the Knicks were. The Knicks weren't trying to, they didn't try to shoot a 17-pointer. Right? They didn't come out and just throw it up from wherever because they knew that they were down and they needed 3-pointers. They bided their time. They made the right plays. They kept the game plan in place. And they won. And now they're 1 win away from a championship. And that's what championship teams do. The Carolina Hurricanes, what was it? Was it game 3 where they came back from 4-0 to tie it and then lost in overtime? Was that game 3? I think it's game 3. They won game 4. They won the next game. They could have been devastated by that result, but they bounced back and they won. And now it's a 2-2 series. That's the kind of mental fortitude that I need from this team. If you get this team to have, the britches to go through the motion, to go through these tough times in the regular season, they have the talent to win the title. That's what's so frustrating about this era is they have the talent. They don't have something else. Usually it's the goalie. Yeah. But even the goal, like Freddie Anderson's been terrible this series. Carter Hart's been awful this series. So, teams are doing it without a goalie sometimes.
I just find it very interesting how the Knicks put this all together because when this was done, when the Knicks hired Leon Rose, an agent, to run this team, that was like big time news in New York. That was a bold move. And also the biggest bold move out of it was James Dolan gave them full autonomy to do what they needed to do.
That was crazy.
So yeah, two aspects there. Crazy and crazier. And a lot of people that knew Leon Rose were ripping on him. He knows nothing. What are you doing? All the pundits were just like, nope. The way they built it, it was, they had Tom Thibodeau as their coach. He was very defensive minded, but he grinded them to the ground. Again, I think they did a masterful job of, you're talking about 2 decades of losing, like really bad. Just piece by piece, one by one, they brought the culture back in that Knicks locker room. That culture. And I think I'm a big culture guy. Mm-hmm. Even getting Jalen Brunson from Dallas to New York was even controversial as well. Like, why are you bringing... Because the Knicks didn't have a point guard for the last 20 years till Jalen Brunson came in. And even then, the pundits weren't sure about that. It's the same thing with the New Jersey Devils. They haven't had a real goaltender since Marty Brodeur and Corey Schneider. Really, Marty Brodeur, because the Corey Schneider years was really in the midst of their rebuild, which, again, I like Corey Schneider, but the timing wasn't there for him, unfortunately. And
his hip just went out. I think he would have recovered better today. I think they have a better surgery for what he was dealing with, but not part of it. Sorry.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is there's other things about the Knicks that I wish the Devils would do, like let things grow organically with the fans. There was this like big like it's same with the New York Mets. You know, the 7 line. The team just helped it along. You know, they didn't get involved, but they were involved in terms of like, okay, you guys can do this, you guys can do that, just don't do this. You know, but they never really got involved. They let fans be fans. And even in the entertainment, the Knicks, they didn't do what the Spurs did, the player introductions where they played some, clown music or whatever Spurs were doing. Cheesy. Very cheesy. But they let the fans be the fans. It was their moment, during the starting lineups. Another example of Montreal Canadiens, the way they did their game day presentation. Mm-hmm. I wish David Blitzer could follow James Dolan's lead because it took him many years to figure it out, not to get involved. But the big difference between James Dolan and David Blitzer is actually James Dolan is actually a real fan. He's a real fan. He loves his Knicks. He loves his Rangers. Even though he's an owner. Coincidentally, I think David Blitzer, the Blitzer family and the Dolans are interconnected with the Cleveland Guardians. But maybe they can take a page from their book. Now, I'm not saying James Dolan is an angel. He's had his problems, like the Charles Oakley thing. Remember that press release that the Rangers, after Tom Wilson basically destroyed the Rangers franchise in one game.
They sent another letter this year, Sam. They're devastating the Rangers.
Yeah. So,
but that's the difference, right? He put the Rangers in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
Chris Jury is not a good GM.
No. But he did before that. He did bring Glenn Sather in. And trusted everything the guy did. And the guy, I think for overall, did a decent job. He didn't bring a Stanley Cup.
Not everybody won the Stanley Cup, but that Rangers team was great for a decade.
Yeah, I mean, getting Henrik Lundqvist, some of the players that they developed, all that. But
Kreider was great.
Yeah.
I think Sather's the one who traded for Zibanejad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good moves.
But they let the fans be the fans. And the way they do that whole celebrity row thing and all that, Mark Cuban, when Mark Cuban bought the Mavericks years ago, after he cashed out on his IPO, all that, the Mavericks were like practically a bankrupt franchise with no fans. And what Mark Cuban did, did you know he used to do this? His first Maverick games, there was like no fans. Did you know he used to go to the adult nightclubs and try to recruit a lot of the dancers to come to Mavericks games and sit in the first row and all that kind of stuff?
That's too funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know he did that. I knew he would sit in the crowd and be a show.
Yeah. But he was just
he would yell, and he would scream, and he would make it a show. Like go see Mike Cuban, an owner, a billionaire.
Yeah.
Screaming and yelling at basketball.
And getting fines and writing it off, as a business expense. Like, that was brilliant. I mean,
right.
But
and now look at him.
Yeah.
He made $1 billion by being boisterous.
I think the problem with the Devils, because it's very corporate-like, that oftentimes they like to control what the fans are doing, and they want to have ownership of everything what the fans are doing, or ownership of things that are around the arena. They want to control everything. But you see the way the Knicks do things, like Madison Square Garden is like a world-class facility. Not because it's Madison Square Garden. If you ever gone to a game at Madison Square Garden, I went to Devils Rangers. The ushers, security, all that are just so well organized, so well, they talk to you like a human being. My friend had some health issues, asked to move to a different seating to help him, and they made sure my friend was just, and we were Devils fans at a Devils Rangers game. and made sure my friend was comfortable and always checked up on him every 20 minutes to see if he's okay, if he wants anything. You know, that's a world-class facility. You know,
what point are you getting to?
The point I'm getting to is their staff is like one big family, and I talked to the usher because she asked like what they do at Prudential Center. I'm not criticizing the work of that Prudential Center, but their level of training is far different than the employees get at the Prudential Center. You know, that's a world-class facility. And if you want to learn,
they probably
from the
pay
Knicks,
a lot better.
Of course.
So,
they probably do. They probably do. But at the same time, you know, if you're going to be a high-traffic arena, which the Prudential Center is, you know, you got to step up your game a little bit. That's all. Because
I agree.
Because I think Prudential Center makes just as much money as MSG. It's in the same area. It's just more cost efficient.
It's because I know how much it costs to rent out MSG. I think Prudential Center is about 60%.
We're talking possibly two different things. The Prudential Center has a lot of events outside of Devils. A lot of
right,
events.
But
so does MSG.
But the MSG has two sports, so they don't have as many nights to do events.
But their overhead's much higher than Prudential Center.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I'm talking profitability.
Just in the taxes.
Yeah,
or no, they don't pay taxes, right? There's some weird rule.
Oh yeah, even the Devils have the weird stuff. They don't pay property taxes. Like technically, the city of Newark owns the arena, but if the Devils pay X amount of dollars, which is a fixed cost, they get 100% of everything, as if they owned it.
Yeah,
they get all the benefits of everything. So it's kind of like being a renter. You know, you rent an apartment, but you get the benefits of being an owner without being an owner.
That reminds me, and we can go to plugs after this. But when I worked at Borgata, the Borgata sold the land that it was on, and like rented it. So like the Borgata once owned all of that property with the water club. I don't know what I think it's the MGM Tower now. They sold the land underneath the building and like rented the land as a way to like. It's a way to like inject like, you know, revenue into the bottom line. But like this is a billionaire problem. You know what I mean? We're talking about these aren't first world problems. These are 0.1% problems. These are beyond our scope, Sam.
Well, the point I was trying to make, the Devils can learn from the Knicks, is they let the fans beat the fans.
Yep.
Everything is like artificially manufactured with the Devils. Like it's.
But can the Knicks fans calm down? Stop fighting Spurs fans.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think they're real Knicks fans. We've seen this in sports, just like in Vancouver, 2010. Was it really the Vancouver Canucks fans burning down the city? Maybe some drunk ones, but it was. Agitators with Vancouver, you know, and I think that's what we're seeing right now because of all the attraction of the New York Knicks, what they're doing. And you know, again, don't believe everything you see. You really have to be there to kind of find out, you know, is this stuff really happening? Because for the most part, the Knicks fans have been great, but throwing an egg at Wemby was uncalled for. You can't be doing that.
Yeah, that stuff's gross. You got to be better, guys. Like, you got to be better. But anyway, I'm ready for plugs. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, go ahead.
PugsPitchworks.com. We have so many articles out right now. I wrote about Nico Heischer's $13 million. Is he worth $13 million? I wrote about that. I wrote about Jack Hughes getting one less vote than Quinn Hughes. I wrote about the Knicks. The Knicks. I wrote about Pascal. I can't remember his name.
Pascal Riom
got a head coaching job in the PWHL.
Wow.
Former Devil, 2003 Stanley Cup champ. I forgot, Sam. He's the guy in the shot that hugs Brodeur when we win, when the buzzer sounds. So I thought that was funny. But he's going to be the head coach of the Toronto Scepters. Wrote about that. We've been writing about a ton. JP Gambatees has been rocking and rolling. He wrote about how goalies aren't important in the playoffs. Charlie Borges Jr. is writing something tonight on some of the town hall stuff. So, we had you on the ground for us, Sam, but Charlie Borges is also getting us some getting a news piece. But real quick, I wrote some fun ones, Sam, for Fansided surrounding the World Cup. I have the 10 United States sports stars that would have saved American soccer if they had just chosen that sport.
Oh, very nice.
And there's a hockey player on the list. I also have the 20 most interesting World Cup teams and their pro sports equivalent. So, like, the United States team. Who do you think I picked for the United States?
Well, I don't know.
The Dallas Cowboys. I thought it was too perfect. All hype and no championships. But that's a fun one. I wrote about 10 teams that you should watch even though they're not going to win the championship. That's all on fansided.com. Go look up my name on Fansided. I do 10 of these a month, Sam, where it's just like big lists, fun lists. Let's talk about fun, interesting things. Let's do some wild themes. Go look me up on Fansided because it's a boredom buster.
All right. Go look up Nick Villano. I have nothing to plug other than I may be starting up my my solo podcast again, taking that pause. And I met quite a few people at the town hall yesterday. Jerry, if you're listening, Art Heaton, Maria, if you're listening out there. Had a good time. Roman, it was a good time. It was a good time. And then Roman and I went out for steaks afterwards. It was great. It was awesome. Portuguese.
Never take me out for steaks.
Well, because you're down in South Jersey.
Tisk.
All right, we'll go out for steaks if you're jealous.
I'm jealous.
We'll go to Steak on a Stone where they take a filet mignon raw and they just put it on that stone and then they let it sizzle, cook, and
I love a theme.
A theme?
Yeah, that's like a theme. It's like hibachi.
Oh,
with steak.
Okay. All right. Anyway, all right, getting out of here. Gonna put the podcast up in about 20 minutes. Keep it here, keep it real. Go to pucksandpitchforce.com. Until next time, let's go Devils.